Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio. Ready to revolutionize your franchise with AI? Franchise Now empowers franchises with advanced AI solutions, automatic processes, and enhanced marketing strategies. From personalized customer interactions to predictive analytics, we help you harness AI to drive growth and efficiency. Transform your franchise with the power of AI. Visit Franchise Now to learn more and take your business into the future. Now, here's your host.
Welcome back, everybody, to Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm Rob Ganley. It's good to have you here. Today, we have a great guest with us today. We have Ana Malmqvist. She is the Chief Marketing Officer of Melting Pot. With 93 locations nationwide, Melting Pot has built a loyal customer base by creating a unique emotional connection that keeps their guests coming back for more. And I can tell you, I've been there, and it's a very cool place to take a special person, in my opinion. Celebrating nearly 50 years of history, Melting Pot has become an integral part of its guests' lives, from birthday celebrations to engagements and anniversaries. Ana and I are going to talk about the future and some of the new stuff that Melting Pot has been rolling out, and a lot to do with the ambiance and the relationship they have with their customers. So we're going to talk about that today. It's great to have you, Ana. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, I love to, kind of get level set here on things, right? I know you've been in franchising a while. Most of my guests have. Tell us a little bit about your journey to the Melting Pot and what that's been like since you've been with them, because I know it's been a little while.
Yeah. And actually, I did not get my start with franchising at all, but I have worked, to your point, worked my way into it. And so I come from a consumer packaged goods background. I started marketing in beauty, actually, with L'Oreal in New York City. And then I moved over to Procter & Gamble, where I was also in beauty care, and I was there for several years. And I only switched over to hospitality. It's now been a while, but I only switched over to hospitality when I moved back home, which is into the Tampa Bay area. And I worked for Bloomin Brands for some time on both their Carrabbas and their Outback brands. And I made that leap because I always say, first and foremost, I'm a marketer. And the relationship between beauty marketing and hospitality, which you probably think, there is no relationship there. It's actually the main shopper and user in beauty care is basically the main decision maker when it comes to a hospitality or a dining out situation like restaurants, right? The wife, the girlfriend, the mother, she's the one that's making those decisions and certainly has the big veto vote. So I was able to channel my understanding of that female consumer that I had nurtured for all those years at L'Oreal and Procter & Gamble, and was able to translate that into the restaurant space and the hospitality space. So I was at Bloomin Brands on those two brands for a while. And then I actually was working with Melting Pot on a consulting basis when they were doing some strategic work in late 2019. So I was doing some consumer work some strategic consumer work for them at that time. And I loved what they were doing and they loved the work that I was doing. And so they asked me to join them just in time for COVID. And so I started working with them January 2020. And everything went crazy from there. And in terms of franchising, when I was working with Outback, a minority of our locations were franchised. Let's say out of the close to 700 locations that Outback had, maybe 200 something, a little less than 300 were franchised. However, those were franchised. They were owned by, let's say, 3 or 4 big franchise groups. So very different, working with Melting Pot, which is the majority of the restaurants are franchised and they're not big groups. So that has been a great opportunity for me to really understand and learn the franchising model since I've been here.
Well, you said something that was interesting, and I think it's really important to talk about. Your background, right? I did go all the way back, and I noticed you were in New York City and working, I think L'Oreal, you said, or and then Procter & Gamble. But the beauty industry, right? So that's interesting. That's a different thing. So like you get it. So like, tell me about, so you got 50 years of Melting Pot of this history, and I've been to the restaurant, as I said, and yeah, I think many times actually. It's been a long time, but there was a span where we were going more. And basically, to me, it's a great ambiance. It's very romantic. It's very much about good experiences. It can be. I know you guys are flexible with things, but it's very much about taking a special person on a special day. And so like you take that background in beauty and knowing how women feel and what makes them feel good and feel beautiful and all that. I think there's some of that goes into the ambiance. Like how did that play into your influences of how you look at that and create the marketing and the experiences?
Well, I mean, everything has to have a reason. And the thing about beauty, and beauty has evolved over time. It used to be just superficial, applying something on your face, your body, whatever. That was just going to address an appearance, right? And now the beauty industry has evolved in that you want to actually see fundamental change. You don't want to just do a superficial fix. You want to actually, change, which is when you've seen beauty going from like, I don't want to just have something on my face. I want it to fundamentally change my skin or do something more invasive, right? To change, right? So you've seen how med spas have become big or how, other treatments, fillers, Botox, things like that. And then all the way to like, surgery. And this is for men and women, right? But as beauty has evolved, you also see things like long-lasting brands like the Melting Pot, right? And you drew a lot of restaurant brands have not been around as long as us, but we have been around as long as some of these CPG companies, right? L'Oreal, P&G has been around for over 100 years, right? And so I think when you have the long game in mind, like we have, and like we do, and when you think about that, I think that's really, really important in terms of, how do you have a long-standing business? And I think the other piece of it is, and you said it yourself, you used to maybe go more, now you don't go as much, maybe you go more. Well, Melting Pot has really, it's not just about the special occasions, but it's a big part of it. And it's more about the journey of people's lives. And we're on that journey with them. And they tell us that that they're on that journey with us, or we're on that journey with them, right? And so if you think about it, and I'll use myself as an example, the first time I went to Melting Pot, I was a kid and I went with my parents. And then the next time I might have gone, let's say maybe I was like a few years older, not the next time, but like the next kind of life stage that I went on was I actually went with my friends. And so I was maybe an older teenager, and we could go maybe for homecoming or for prom, or it was like just a fun night out with friends. And then, other people might then go again when they start dating, right? It's a great place to have a date night because it's intimate. It can be romantic. You're sharing, right? So there's that date night. And then that date night might evolve into a proposal or an engagement taking place at the Melting Pot. Again, because it's romantic, it's intimate. You've got that privacy. And then you start celebrating your anniversaries. Now that you've gotten married, you start celebrating your anniversaries. Maybe that's what you were doing, right? Celebrating your anniversaries at Melting Pot. And then eventually you start having kids. And then fast forward, you end up taking your kids to Melting Pot, right? And of course, like you've got your special occasion, you've got your grandparents there, you've got the bigger, the graduations, all those things in between. My point being that we are there for all these big life stages and we are chosen to be the place where they celebrate all these life stages. So it is that longer game that we're in for and that our guests love us for.
Well, and you start, I think you answered this, but I kind of want to just make sure it's clear. Like, so as a marketer, how do you create those emotional connections? Like what you said, it's very clear, but like, how do you make people feel the way you just explained? Like where you almost set it up that way, where like, do you take a first time person that visits the restaurant? Do you know that? And do you then think, okay, we got to kind of show them this future, this path that we want to take with them? Do you do stuff? I mean, how do you create those emotional connections and get them thinking the way you're describing?
Yeah. And I think this is where our franchisees really deliver on this, right? They get it, right? A lot of our franchisees were guests in the first place. They fell in love with the brand, right? And so as now the business owner, they make that personal touch, come alive every time. And that's what they instill in their staff at the locations. So we call it the perfect night out. And that's something that our franchisees and everyone on the front lines, they understand what that is. So what are all of those special touches? It's not like we have a manual necessarily. It's like we want to make sure that the guest has the perfect night out, whatever that perfect night is to them. So our franchisees and our locations are excellent at, what are those cues that you need to take to understand what is that guest looking for? What is that guest occasion that they're there for? And how do you, again, it's those little details that they have 100% ownership to bring to life to deliver that perfect night out on that particular night with that particular table with that particular guest.
Well, that impacted me, the perfect night out. It did. I don't know. It's just a very simplistic sort of statement. But I feel like there's a lot of thought that has to go behind that. And what you're saying is, we got you. We got your back. Get out a perfect night out. For me, it feels like, oh, yeah, you get someone very important, right?
That's where it all,
there's an answer.
Yeah, that's where it all comes to life. We are very aware of occasions, right? We have an occasion-based strategy. We know that we're the place to come for these, what we call extraordinary celebrations, these extraordinary experiences, which are the birthdays, the anniversaries, as well as things like Valentine's Day and the holidays. We know that. We own that area. But we also know that we're great for romantic occasions beyond just Valentine's Day. And that guests want to use us for more casual occasions, not just those special occasions, which, are bigger deals, right? So we know that guests want to use us in these ways. So we have developed programs, we've developed promotions, we've developed things so we have more occasions for the guests to come to us for, right? But at the end of the day, how those occasions are then delivered within the restaurant is really, that what keeps them coming back, right? Because they deliver that, again, what I said, the perfect night out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that itself is a great, marketing. You're going to talk about that. Your perfect night out, you're going to talk about it and talk about it. So it's just, if you do that well, you get that word of mouth going and the repeat business and all that. So tell me, that kind of leads me into my next thought, is you have a membership program, I believe, right? Club Fondue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very successful. I feel like it's kind of like the glue of what we were talking about. It's like this thing that always keeps us connected and, reminding us of the different ideas and perfect occasions and, that sort of thing. And then the promotions and whatnot. But tell me more about that. How did you get that to become successful? What are those ingredients that you think makes a membership like that so successful? It's well into the millions, I believe. So
yeah, we have, I don't know what the exact count is, but it has grown exponentially. And so it's not a membership or anything like that. It's frankly our email database, right? And that's how we communicate with guests among other ways. But they're very engaged. And we communicate with them via Club Fondue in two ways. One is national communication, and the other is location based. Again, so when we think of marketing, and I know how overall this is how it works in franchise concepts as well. Is you've got national marketing, and then you've got local marketing, and together, those have to work together. They complement each other. They don't fight each other. But because to be competitive, the totality of that has to then, go up against, your competitors. And so they both have to work together. And so we have really, in my tenure here, beefed up the national efforts so that we do behave more as a brand. And so we do send out national emails so that everybody, the 2 million plus members of Club Fondue, are getting that, that similar message in terms of what's going on at the Melting Pot, right? But because of that local special touch, we do have our franchisees in our locations sending local emails with very specifics as to what is going on in that particular location. And, are they running any specials? Are they doing anything special promotion? Are they celebrating anything that's very regional specific? That's not necessarily, a national thing, but that, makes sense in Minnesota. Right. And so we really encourage that. And so we want to make sure that, if you've got 4 weeks in a month, we do 2 national emails and they do 2 location based emails, and we communicate a lot. Right. So another thing we do is, if you're celebrating a birthday or some kind of milestone with us, you'll get something via Club Fondue saying that, come in and you're also going to get, chocolate covered strawberries, with us. So things like those little touches. And then when you come in, right, and if you're having a special occasion, then there's all these different things that you can select to do, not just, come in, look at the menu, order food. That's never how we operate. It's, how can we make this even more special? Do you want rose petals and candles at your table? Are you celebrating something? You want balloons? Do you, champagne toast? All those little special touches that, again, are surprise and delights for our guests.
Yeah. No, I was thinking through a lot. I mean, a lot of good strategy in what you're saying. And I live in Colorado Springs, so the Melting Pot is right downtown. But there's a lot of unique qualities to our region. And so now we're combining the perfect night out with something we care about locally.
Yeah.
There's more reasons to connect. What do you think about, in terms of marketing with email, which I love email marketing. And I think, I love when people think it's not effective. I stop, won't market. Email is a great way to engage an audience and stay in touch. And it's what we're pretty much used to right now. And it's great. So what do you think about, is there a frequency? Is there an approach to days, timing? Is it more just about the relevance and timing of the message and the personalization? Or is there other things that you have found that help engagement with that kind of stuff? What is your most successful email marketing stuff? Is there one thing, always wins?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's a continuous improvement process. And now what we're actually working on, because now we have the capability to do a better job of this, is you said the word is more personalization, right? And so going back, again, prior to my joining the company, we didn't do national emails. It was all local emails, and some locations do a great job of local emails and some don't, right? Because they're trying to operate within their 4 walls and they're not marketers, right? And so coming in, and actually even doing national emails, 4 years ago was a big deal, right? And now we're, 4 years in, and then we're past COVID, and the industry is being challenged now in different ways, coming off of all the residual COVID effect, right? And so now we need to. Everybody's down. I'm going to say it, right? Everybody's down. Everybody's being challenged with traffic because we've got that old pent up demand, honeymoon that's ending across the board, right? And so now, again, because we have new capabilities that we're investing in, we do want to do a better job from an email standpoint in terms of offering more personalization. So we're putting a big effort towards better segmentation so that we can more not necessarily one-to-one personalization, but that we can have more messages out there, better tailored to more targeted audiences, which again, to increase relevancy and motivate more for them to come join us.
Yeah, I think that'll get easier and easier. I think as I'll share more with you later. I have a thought on that, but I think in terms of emailing, if we can get it closer to what we experience on the social networks,
Mm-hmm.
right, with the algorithmic driven sort of content, and that becomes very personalized. So I think we're moving in that direction. But again, I'm a big fan of the email channel as far as having a personal relationship with your.
I mean, we do get, we get really good engagement. And you see those click-through rates, and those generate reservations. And we look at it, the national emails versus the local emails, that are doing equally well, which is great. We don't want, they're both doing equally well. I think it's 30-something% click-throughs, right? So it's really good. So we're happy with that. And so, So, it a few years ago, somebody was going to say, email's dying, email's going to be dead. It's not dead. People are still engaging with us. And sometimes we actually use our database to do, a little research, right? If we want to get a little pulse on something that we're working on, we might send out an email via Club Fondue, to take a survey, right? And I have worked on brands at Procter & Gamble and at L'Oreal where you invest heavily in research and you're trying to meet quotas in terms of getting a good enough base to do research. And even at Outback and Carrabba's. And, you sometimes are like, oh, we don't have enough responses yet. Oh, we can't close the survey because we don't have enough responses. I have never worked on a brand like Melting Pot where the response rate is so fast. You get thousands of responses within half an hour of fielding the survey. That I've never been able. I can close surveys so fast because we want to keep them open just to make sure we got a broad, assortment of people, because you've probably got your super fans, are the first ones to respond. So we keep it open just to make sure that we got, a more representative set of responses. But your response rate here is through the roof. And, as a marketer who loves research, that's super exciting, right? And that's all via email and they love it.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Very valuable, very good effort that you guys put into that many years ago to build it to what it is today. And you've obviously been growing the crap out of it. It's pretty successful. So, if I were my brand, I'd be happy we had that. And I think that people are raving fans. Like what you're describing is a gold standard of if you can get to that, if you get to people to just love you because it's the perfect night out, man. Like it's I gotta be in my world, right? That's what you want. And I think, you're right with the COVID, it's interesting. There's a drop off, but I still feel like businesses like yours are going to be so needed. We need this. We need engagement. We need interaction. My goodness. I look, and I think back to 30 years ago, how much more interaction I had with humans. Like now I can do so much virtual. I guess I move around still, but I'm very much isolated, way more than I used to be. And
yeah, no, that's an advantage. That's an advantage that we have. I mean, I remember working on Outback and Carrabba's, and this is casual dining and it's different, but we were searching for, what is our version of entertainment, right? What is our version? Well, if you have Texas Roadhouse with the peanuts on the floor and then we're line dancing, now what are we going to do, right? And we had brainstorming, we did research, we all these different things. And the pleasure of walking to a brand that has this experiential dining since day one, right? Where we say around here, it's as much about what's around the pot as what's in the pot, right? And so by virtue of how the dining experience goes, there's no way you can be sitting there on your phone or be sitting there doing anything else, from the moment you walk in until the moment you walk out. There's no way that you can do anything else but engage in this experience with the people around you, because you have to make decisions together, right? When you sit down, you have to make decisions in terms of what cheese fondue are you going to share? You can't each have your own pot of cheese, right? It's about sharing, right? So you have to come to a compromise in terms of what is it? So that's that fun discussion. Are we going to do Alpine? Are we going to do cheddar? What are we going to do? So you have that discussion. You make the same about the cooking style that you're going to share, and then you're going to make the same decision about the chocolate you're going to share. And then it's that active, participation in terms of dipping things and then cooking things, right? And so it's fundamental to us. And other brands, would kill to have, this already built into their experience. So you're right. I think we're more resilient in that regard because for two reasons. Number one, it's a unique experience, experiential dining. But number two, when we're really used for the special occasions that you will continue to have, you'll continue to have the birthdays, you'll continue to have the anniversaries. And when you want to celebrate in that really special way, we're the place.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about marketing here. From a technology point of view, before I jump into that, I just want to comment on what you said. Yeah, I was going to ask you about how you create these emotional connections, right? I thought of ambiance. You said a lot of things, but when you just said something new, which was, you have to come in and make decisions together.
Mm-hmm.
You are focused on something. And for many, it's something new, right? Several new things, because you're not going to taste everything every time if you go there a lot. There's always something new to experience and something you're kind of learning, you're experiencing. And that is a unique bonding experience for people. And that's why it's the perfect night out. But that can be intentful. Like if you want to create that experience, you can make decisions to try to do things like that, right? Obviously, you guys have the fondue and there's reasons for those extra things, but you can create that. So that's amazing, really. I mean, I think the idea that you have to start kind of making decisions and you're sort of moving through stuff, not a lot of dead time, looking at your phones, and like you said. Well, that's cool. So I was going to get into technology next. I figured that was sort of a, you know, getting into the less emotional, touchy feely. But you want to create that with the technology, right? You don't want technology to be anything different than what your brand is. It's just helping you be the brand, is the way I feel about technology. Tell me more about how you guys are doing things like with the point of sale system, or, if you tie that to Google or reviews, or like, tell me how you guys think about that type of stuff. And are you leveraging technology to help create this experience further or solidify it?
Yeah. And you're right. Right. That's the one thing where, like, in terms of the experience, we're the place that makes you not use your technology, like put your phone down, right, when you walk in the door. But until you walk in the door, we know that you're doing everything on your phone, right, including making your reservations, right? We know that over 80% of our reservations. So one of my closest partners, in terms of, functional wise, multifunctional wise, that I work with is IT, right? And so, and my team works very, very close with them. So, for example, three things, right? You already mentioned Club Fondue, right? So that's our email database. Toast with POS, and then OpenTable, and our website, right? Visergy runs our website, and then you've got OpenTable as our reservation platform. And so what we have done is we've going back to that segmentation point that I made first and foremost, right? How do I leverage technology? I need to better understand the guest and understand what's going to motivate and drive that guest in all the different ways that they live in the world. And so one of the things that we did is, what is that intersection of our Club Fondue, email database, and our OpenTable reservations, and our Toast check, right? Who's come to us and actually experienced us, and there's a check, that they paid. The intersection of all of that has now led us to better understand the behavior, in terms of just generating data for us to understand what is the behavior that we're seeing in terms of their recency, their frequency, their spend level, again, that helps us now better understand the segmentation. So we went out using that technology and that data that we now have access to. We went out and found people that fit these profiles of these segments that we've targeted, fit these profiles that are users, right? Because they're in our database and they're in our OpenTable and they're in our Toast data, and try to understand, hey, what drives each of this brand? Why do you love this brand? What do you want to see from this brand to make you come back for more, just to understand what that emotional connection is, right? Then we also went out and talked to people that fit these profiles and have a melting pot in their town, but they've never been. And why haven't you been? Because, and ask them, why have you not heard from us? Where do you go? Where do you choose to go for your special occasions? Where do you choose to go for your date night? Just to have a richer understanding of our guests and why they do or why they do not come to us more often. So that's one way we've kind of harnessed the power of technology in that respect. Another way we're doing it is we, again, prior to my joining, there was no paid media, paid digital advertising. They were not doing it. Some locations might have been doing it as a one-off separately, locally. But we came together and we created an advertising co-op that now the locations opt in and participate in. And I think now we have, I would say, about 80% of our locations participating in the advertising co-op, which is search and social. It's not, it's not this tremendous, investment. It's not this, but it's a very important marketing tactic that we use, and we're growing and we're flexing our muscle there more and more. Where we've got to a point, like I said, 80% of the system is on it. It started as, just do it during our promotions, but now we want to make sure that we're consistently on monthly, and the locations that are on monthly, make sure that they're increasing their spend. Sometimes the reflex is to cut spend, especially when, potentially traffic is down, or you're trying to conserve, or, keep your powder dry. That's exactly what we don't want them to do. We want them to continue to be out there in front of guests and be in that consideration set. AI, it is something that you can't walk 10 feet without hearing about it or using it or doing something with it. That's something that we're also, looking into and testing. But you're right. When you're a brand that's about the perfect night out and about people and about the connection, you have to remain true to yourself. So you can only go as far into technology as you can while not losing sight of, that very special, intimacy and personal touch that we are, right? So like, we can only leverage it as much as it makes sense for us as the brand that we are.
Exactly. You don't want to, it shouldn't create an experience or feeling that isn't what the feeling is. I mean, for me, and I don't know, you probably know, you're probably very intentful about what you want the brand to make people feel like. I feel like warmth. I feel romance. I feel the perfect night out. I feel elegance. I feel high quality, good food. Really, you know what I mean? Like, so, like,
Yeah.
you can't just inject something that's kind of
It can be a
automated.
yeah, it's not a pun.
Automated.
There's not a pun intended here, but it can be like disconnected from what the essence of the brand is. Right. And so we have to protect the brand, right? So we want to be out there. We want to be where the guest is. We want to make sure that the guest knows that we're here. And again, the guest is out there, right? The guest is using AI. The guest is used to AI. I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I had no idea if it was AI or not. I had no idea. I actually don't think it was, but it was odd, right? But it's out there, right? So you can't ignore it. You need to use it, to your strength. But we also have to be just very true to who we are and use it in the right way.
Yeah. 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 I think time will unfold those opportunities. I think the key is don't rush. Don't rush to use just for the sake of, something cool or whatever.
But it's out there. I mean, it's out there in like QSR, and it's, for example, like I'm speaking AI specifically, in terms of like
Yeah.
the drive-through, right? Ordering in the drive-through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's increasing, it's increasing checks because they don't forget the upsells, and order accuracy is better. I mean, so it's really interesting, so is there a way to,
it's
yeah.
life-changing, right? You and I are going to see it. We're going to get a chance to live through this big change that the whole world will go through. But anyway, we'll take it as it comes. As I said, I like keeping it human too. So, and that's what this is all about. I feel like the way you've branded the experiences, these types of things won't go away ever. We need that. So that's good stuff. In terms of when you talked, I'm just curious about the paid ads. What did you find was a good way to it? Like, I thought you'd say you really get to know who sort of like this person is like our other person. And so we're going to invite them and ask them kind of, how come you haven't checked this out sort of thing? Like, so you kind of engage that way, but is there like an offer or a way using sort of colder traffic that you found helped get people in the door? Is it like event based or any special offer? Or you just got to ask the question, like, you're just like our best people. Why didn't you come visit us? Like, how do you approach that new offer?
So, what we learned from the people that look like our guests but aren't using us is it's an awareness issue. We are not a brand. We don't have the penetration of other brands in the market. Some markets might have one melting pot in the town. It's not in the whole state, right? And so it's an awareness issue. We only have a few markets that like Atlanta. They have four locations in the greater Atlanta area. Chicago has a couple of locations in the Chicago area. But and Florida also has, obviously has several, the most melting pots. But for them, it was more an awareness thing. So we kind of had to take a step back with them and even just make them aware of like what this brand is even about. Because once we talked to them about it, they're like, this is so cool. We want to go try it. But first and foremost, it's an awareness thing. Like, what is this brand? How do you use this brand? And so we, from an awareness standpoint, we work very hard to what we're calling demystify fondue. Some people just don't know what it is. If they know what it is, they think it's just cheese and chocolate, which it is, right? That is the basis of it. That's what it's known for. But then they get here and then there's this whole like entree fondue. And what is that? And I have to cook it and what? So we've taken the idea of a fondue dining experience and basically deconstructed it in some of our communication just to make it more clear as to what you're going to be doing with us. And so those are the awareness drivers, right? So it's kind of three pillars: the crave part of it, which is that cheese and chocolate. And then the entree fondue, which is a little bit of this, like, what is that? How do I do that? What we're trying, instead of going through like the step-by-step of what it is personalization. Every bite of that entree fondue can be different because you have the cooking style, you have the different proteins that you select, and then you've got all the different dipping sauces that you can use. So every bite can be different, even if we order, the exact same thing. And then the last pillar of this, demystifying fondue is the experience that you're having, which is that, greater, interactive experience that you're having with the people that you're with, which is different from, if you go to any other restaurant, you order your thing, I order my thing. We're just having kind of different experiences, even though we're across the table from each other. So that was one of the big awareness drivers. From a traffic driving standpoint, what we heard is that people really are interested in our programs and promotions. So we've been very purposeful, going back to that occasion strategy that I talked about before, where you've got the extraordinary occasions, like the birthdays and anniversaries and the Valentine's Days. But then you've got these romantic occasions that people want to use us more for. And then these more casual occasions that we basically didn't really have. So how do you develop new occasions for people to come use us for? And give more opportunities for these romantic occasions. So what our guests, but also the ones that look like our guests that didn't come to us, they found these programs and promotions really motivating. They thought that was interesting, right? Because it's a different way of using the brand. The casual ways, some of these ways have more innovation behind them. So our more regular guests really like, for example, we are coming up on October Fondue Fest, which is a fall promotion that we have. And that has a lot of innovation behind it. And so our more regular, frequent user finds that really appealing because it's a time of year to come with some urgency to try something new that's not always around. So they really like they really like these programs and promotions. And we're actually going to be launching a happy hour later in the summer. In August, we're going to be launching a happy hour program, which is, again, an easier, more casual way to come in and use the brand in a fun, motivating way, because there's an offer attached to it, which is half off cheese and chocolate fondue at the bar during the happy hours, which is going to be super fun, right? And we're calling that Down to Fondue. And we're Down to Fondue happy hour.
Well, it's funny because I feel like we have this telepathy thing going on, because when you were talking about the different proteins and the dippings and all that, I'm thinking to myself, I wouldn't mind going over there now and just sitting there. But I was like, I feel like I wouldn't say to you, I feel like I would be kind of odd being by myself, right? Like it's not with someone else. But then the way you just described that, I feel like, no, man, just come enjoy the experience. You don't have to, doesn't have, so you're opening it up, broadening it a bit. And that's important because for me, I could have thought like, should I go and just hang out? But if I got a happy hour invitation, I think that would probably open the door for that more casual.
And one thing you haven't asked me about, but I'm going to tell you, is our renovations, right? And so we have gone through, again, COVID was a little bit of a snag timing wise, but all of our locations are or either have gone through the process or in the process of doing these renovations. We call it Melting Pot Evolution, which is just a brand refresh of the physical space. And so what we've done is while we're still maintaining the intimacy and the privacy that we're known for in certain areas of the restaurant, like one area we call Lover's Lane, which is like this very kind of private area. But we've also added and opened up spaces to make it more visible and more open and more modern we get a lot of, bigger parties because they want to come celebrate, the bigger occasions, not just couples. We have groups of friends that want to come out and have like a fun friends night out, right? And so we've got these different areas of the restaurant, but one of the big emphasis and one of the big focal points of the renovations was the bar, right? The bar was more of an afterthought. Like people don't even know we have a bar. And if they do know, it's a place to kind of wait for your table. And what we've done within this renovation is made the bar, more of a open, visible, fun place to be. And now we're giving you more of a reason to go sit at that bar with our happy hour program. And so again, it's called Down to Fondue, and it's an opt-in program. It's not a national program. It's not a mandate or anything like that. But we are encouraging the locations that already have renovated to launch this happy hour starting in August. And we have interest from locations that have not yet renovated, but they're very interested in having a happy hour. To your exact point, why not go, in the 4 to 6 p.m. or whatever the actual time is, it varies by location for the happy hour, go have cheese or chocolate fondue for half off, right? So if it's like $26 for a pot of cheese fondue, now you're going to get it for $13. A whole pot of cheese fondue, $13. And go have a glass of wine.
I think fast food would be way more than that. Yeah. So anyway, that's a good deal. Yeah. So, because I was going to kind of get into how do you maintain this? How do you keeping this experience while broadening and inviting others to join it? And that's so like going forward, is there anything on your mind, like visionary wise, that you still got to get to, or what kind of bothers you or concerns you about keeping this? Because you have the ambiance, you have this brand. Like, how do you maintain, I guess, into the future?
I think the fact that this brand has been around for 50 years gives us all reason to believe that we can absolutely look at the brands that have died, that started with us and died along the way, right? There's some places that just don't even exist anymore. We're still around 50 years later. So that gives me all the hope and confidence in the world that we're still going to be around. The other part of it is, we're not just the quick bite to eat and out you go. We're not fuel, for dinner. We are a place that provides you this vessel, right? To come with those you will love the most to have the most special time. And even if it's not the most special time, if it's not this big occasion, you're going to have a very differentiated experience with us. And so that gives me all the confidence in the world that this brand will survive well beyond you and I, right? And so that's great. And the other thing is that we have been working really hard, given the deep dive that we've done with the guest, just to understand that guest has changed since pre-COVID, by the way, too. There's different things at play with that guest. And so this deep dive that we've taken to understand our guests, as well as the guest that doesn't come to us, but really should, we have now developed an innovation pipeline of things that we think will be appealing to them going forward, right? So we touched on some of the programs and promotions that we do, like October Fondue Fest. We talked about the upcoming happy hour. We have other LTOs. We're in the middle of one right now called Forever Fondue, which is endless fondue in the summertime. It usually kicks off around Father's Day. Extremely popular. that people love. That was actually an idea that came from our franchisees. A lot of them had been doing that in their own way across markets. What we did is we kind of took the best of the best and packaged it into this idea, branded it Forever Fondue. And now, they're doing it nationally. And then there's also a program called Thursday, which is a special Thursday night, date night. Yeah, date night. Where, we have a special offer for date night. So, as we look at our innovation pipeline, we're looking at ways, again, going back to that segmentation, what are different ways to attract and be relevant to different types of people? So, we're playing with things in terms of like, what can we do more for families? What can we do more for, beyond a happy hour, a bar experience? So again, we're looking at things into the future, again, to continue being relevant to our guests. But in any way we do it, be it at the bar, be it on a Sunday, be it on a Thursday, whatever the case is, offering that perfect night out as that kind of core idea to deliver to the guest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it comes down to some always simple things, right? Keep it in your eye through that filter, because sometimes you get down these rabbit trails. Why are we working so hard on this again? This doesn't even fit. But now, in that innovation pipeline. So just real quick on that idea, as like an executive leader, how do you make decisions? Like, is there something you kind of have it like an objective way, a subjective thing, but do you kind of say, okay, we got to move on that one? Like, is there something, or is it sort of more intuitive, or is it driven by guest feedback, or what's the main?
Well, it's part art, part science. And so, one thing is, what is our business objective as a company, right? And the locations. And obviously, we're a franchise marketing radio, right? We want a franchise. We want to have more franchises. We want to grow locations. And so, we have objectives here at, Melting Pot Restaurants as a company in terms of, how many franchises do we want to grow to? And so what's my role in that? Well, I want to drive as much sales and traffic to our current locations and make those locations look fantastic so that this looks like a fantastic business opportunity, which it is, for people that are within the restaurant business, but even people without that have no prior restaurant experience. Like I said, a lot of our franchisees started out as guests that loved the brand, right? Because they came for their date nights or they got engaged or they have their anniversaries there. And now they're our franchisees. I can't tell you all the prospects that we have walking through the door that tell us their story when we're sitting there, on decision days with them. So it's really amazing. But yeah, so we have, business objectives, of course. And then we brainstorm and we ideate, but we never just say, okay, we'll go with that. I'm given my CPG background and given things like that, I do need validation to know that these are, so that we have reason to believe that these are the right ideas to move forward. Before people laugh at me here, but like before anybody chops anything in that R&D kitchen, I want to make sure that they're doing it with purpose and with the objective in mind. And so, so we start out big, right? How many ideas can we have? The ideation that we did that led to this innovation pipeline, our brainstorming session generated, I think, over 300 ideas. Those ideas were then collapsed into over 100 more coherent ideas, right? We then took those ideas and consolidated them into like, what do we feel subjectively are the top 50 ideas? That's a lot, right? And just to understand, which are the ones that rise to the top, which are the ones that, are not rising to the top. Then we took those and took like the top however many ideas and then put those into concept testing. Again, nobody in R&D has chopped an onion or turned on a burner or anything before we understand, okay, and versus our benchmarks, right? Versus the Forever Fondues, versus the Thursdays. More robust process up front so that we don't waste any time once we do start, kind of running with it, right? And so what are those viable ideas that we feel have are going to be the most, they're rising to the top, that are going to be the most relevant, that are going to drive the most traffic, they're going to be the most differentiated and financially viable, right? So how much traffic do we think there is? Is it a one night a week thing, or is it an everyday thing? Like what's going to be the most impactful from what the business needs to meet that business objective? Then we make those decisions like, okay, then we'll put it on a calendar. Then, a testing schedule is derived, and then we test it, and then we're off to the races. Then we're in execution mode, and then we optimize as we go. You're not going to put it in a test and be like, oh yeah, we got that 100% right. No, we're going to optimize and we're going to work through it with the intent of ideally being a year out in terms of when we're testing versus when we're launching. And we're getting there. But the fact that we have an innovation pipeline, like already this in 2025, we know what we're going to be testing for hopefully launch in 2026.
Exactly. And honestly, in this world of change, you can't not do that, in my opinion. And that's why I was really interested in your approach. And it's very helpful. Thank you. I think that everybody listening, that is in our world of technology and marketing, it's important to be, how do we test? So like start slow, test, scale fast. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting, like I've had that statement in my head for a long time, but now I can't, man, it's really, really important to do it well. So, because there's just a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of distraction. So, good stuff. Well, Anna, thank you for being here. Before I do let you go, can you share just for the audience the best way to find you guys, to see if you might have a location near them? I highly recommend it. Maybe get on the email newsletter and the Club Fondue. And how would they best do that? And any parting words you'd like to share?
Well, how to find us, meltingpot.com. You can find our locations there, and then you'll actually be driven right to that location page to show you exactly what that location has going on, right? In terms of what are their promotions, what are their LTOs that they're running at this time. So definitely check that out and go find a location, and hopefully there's one near you. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can find the national page. And you can also find a location page. We have actually specific location-based Instagram and Facebook pages as well. And obviously Open Table. You can certainly find us there and make a reservation, right? So on the Open Table marketplace there. In terms of parting words, what I will say is that next year, 2025, is our 50th anniversary. And we've got special things planned for that. It might be our 50th, but it's not about us. It's about our guest. And so, look forward to introducing what that will be, in the future, and look out for it. It'll be really fun.
Well, I definitely want to have you back. I have a good excuse. So it'll be fun to see what you do. I think, that's a good one. 50. Yeah, it's a good 100 would be good. We won't be around for that, but 50 is a great one. Better than 25, right? So that'll be fun. Well, we'll definitely have you back. We'll talk some more marketing and see how you guys are doing then. But thanks again for taking the time with us today.
Thank you so much, Rob. It was great to be with you.